Some supplemental nerd news starting.
Popcorn rice after discussion.
Want to know some more fun facts?
Isn't it awesome to see some of your favorite content creators and favorite people, honestly, that you follow here on this tab, be a part of this amazing community called the Nerd Initiative?
Welcome to Fandoms, a show from every fan's point of view, brought to you by the Nerd Initiative Network. Here's your hosts, Tony and Michael.
Okay, so you got me. It's not an official Fandoms episode. This is something that we're going to start probably calling just Nerd News, but just to start off, I figured it was the best way to do it. So, hello, Michael. How are you doing?
Tony had a tough time cutting the cord. He's like, it's got to be Fandom Supplemental Nerd News.
Oh yeah, I love like all adding the whole
2023
colons and yeah, it's like I didn't even put the season 0.5 episode, whatever.
It's the mid-season.
It's Fandom's episode 12.5. But no, yes. So we discovered last week that Fandoms is starting to get a little bit long, not just because of the commentary that we have after, because if you really consider it, that commentary after was not as long as it normally is. It was the nerd news, and we toyed back and forth a little bit about some things, and the best way to do it is to kind of break off 2 weeks worth of news into 1 week. And so on the weeks that Fandoms doesn't officially run, we're going to do a Saturday supplemental or a Saturday nerd news. See, I'm still wanting to call it supplemental, a nerd news episode to get you caught up.
You love the word supplemental.
I don't know what it is.
Right?
Like, hey, listen, I almost took a bottle with pills coming out, like herbal supplements, like for the logo. Like, listen, I don't know what it is. I've been tired.
You and the logos and the graphics and the naming.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What happens? You get an Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, and you go crazy. Okay, so we are going to cover some nerd news, and then at the end, we've also got Michael giving us some streaming show recommendations or streaming recommendations. We might add a lot to. What's going to end up happening is we're going to do this to minimize the volume of time that we take on the official Fandoms episode. Then we're going to chalk this one full up, and it's going to create another show. So at some point, our faces will be on.
We promise not to do 3 hours of nerd news, though.
We do not promise. We do not. We make no promises.
I promise.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into it, so that we're possibly delivering on that. So let's go ahead and touch on nerd news of the week. And Michael, you want to go ahead and kick us off first with this?
Yes. Well, I think we'll let you kick us off because I was not privy to certain notes. So
okay.
I was looking to see if I got those notes in. I did not, and I am not aware of what this is. So this is interesting.
Oh, Michael's not doing his homework. All right. So anyway, what's happening here? Disney Parks actually just announced that with a really interesting way of doing it. They had a person in a blue dress suit and the red hat, pulling up a Rogers musical pamphlet as she was walking toward the Hyperion Theater at Disney California Adventure. And Disney is actually going to have, for a limited time during the summer, a Rogers the Musical. It's a 1-act musical of Rogers the Musical at the Hyperion Theater, which let me just say this. I did a video of this on TikTok last night. Do you get the humor behind them putting this at a theater named Hyperion? Like, I thought this was funny. Like, I just like anything Marvel related at a Hyperion theater. And you're probably sitting in the audience going, what is he talking about? But Hyperion is a character in Marvel. And I'm sitting there, and this is what happens in my Marvel brain. I'm like, are they teasing? Like, never mind. I think it's too meta.
You got very, very into this, and I will say to piggyback on that, I am now doing my homework, so I will be able to pick up the next segment, which is good. So there's my drop in on this. But I mean, this is interesting. This is cool. I mean, they're really milking this for all it's worth. Kevin Feige and his clearly his response to fans, because because this is what he wanted all, and this is his dream was
Mhm.
to make a musical. That's what he said at D23. So he's going to take this as far as it will go.
Yeah, I think it was pretty smart for them to announce it this way, because if you really think about it, they teased it in Hawkeye, and we also saw the billboards in Spider-Man No Way Home, and then they got a really good response that way. And as cheesy as it is, it worked. And then, like you said, they also had this done live at D23, and I believe you saw this live.
I saw it. So how do I word this? Because it's we're a family program, so we're not going to curse. Because I was going to say, this to me is Kevin Feige's big fu to the people that complained about the post-credit scene at the end of Hawkeye season 1. And he made it very clear, because at D23 he went in this long explanation of saying, I've always wanted to make a musical. It's been my dream to make a musical, and so we got to do this. And then he literally was like to the audience, oh, so they're here. We're gonna do the whole thing. And he brought them out. And I think he made a comment. I'm trying to remember the comment he made, but he said something to the liking of like, do you guys want me to do it again? And he definitely was passive aggressively saying, I don't care what the fans say. That this is cool to me. So
yeah. And I think that's the cool thing about it. It puts you into something that actually happened in the MCU, and it gives you an opportunity to observe it in a live form. Now, is it going to be the same actors from the? No, these people were Broadway actors, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them are not coming back to work for Disney for a summer, unless they're in between like the Broadway gigs. But regardless, it's fun. It's different.
Yeah.
Listen, not every Marvel fan is a Disney bounding Disney adult, but there are a lot of Disney bounding Disney adults that are diehard Marvel fans. And I think that's important. There's a demographic. And again, like I'm a huge fan. I would love to go see this. I would love to be a part of this. I'm in the East Coast. The likelihood that I'm going to make it, like, oh, I'm going to be able to sit here, like, I just survived Disney World in December, and that was because someone helped us get there. Like, you think I'm really going to be able to just drop everything and go to Disneyland in California just to see this musical? No, it's not going to happen. But there's going to be a lot of happy California adults and people who are already heading that way. They're going to love this. I just want one of the pamphlets. Like, I want any type of like material that they,
like the playbill, the Broadway playbill.
Yes, the playbill, absolutely. Yeah. Like that would be worth it.
That'd be cool. I will say the last thing I'll say about this is, and this is completely a tangent, and we're known for this, but this is a tangent to this, because I'm picturing myself like in the audience when they did this, and it feels immersive, and it feels like, that's obviously the Battle of New York from Avengers. We don't have enough immersive experiences with stuff like this. Like, I was just thinking about it, like, how cool would it be if you were in, whether it's Avengers Campus or Disney World or Disneyland, to kind of walk into the world of the Avengers, like in the middle of the battle, or oh man, to walk into the battle at the end of Endgame and like walk around, and I don't know how much that would cost. I'm sure it'd be expensive, but everything at Disney is expensive. Chicken nuggets are $40 a serving. So
I will tell you, right after Endgame, and because of the pandemic, this company went out of business, but there was the company The Void, the VR experience group that was actually at Denzi Springs and a couple places. They did amazing things. And one of the things that they did right after was Avengers Damage Control. And you literally, like, cool. Letitia Wright, Chadwick Boseman voiced, you heard Chadwick Boseman in the background talking to Shuri. It had Benedict Cumberbatch. It had I think Paul Rudd was part of it. I think Brie Larson even played a part in it, where they were at least voicing. And you're at a Wakanda Outreach Center, and you're being trained on using this Stark tech, Wakandan tech, like vibranium laced Iron Man suits that actually could build shields, and you could do repulsors. Cool. And with the Void, it's a giant arena, and so you're wearing this VR mask, and where there's like a handrail to touch when you go, there actually is a handrail.
Yeah,
it's just that it's all blocked out. I remember like getting teleported through like the Doctor Strange ring and walking into the Sanctum Sanctorum, and then walking up the stairs to see Doctor Strange right there, and then you feel like the cloak like float past you. and then all of a sudden you have to like fly a Quinjet and go to a helicarrier, and you're fighting with the Avengers, and it felt so realistic. And if
That's
you
cool.
played with other people, those people were rendered as other people in other Iron Man suits with you. So that immersive experience is something they really need to bring back, and I think these are great.
Yeah.
I think doing like a Avengers Con, like we saw in Miss Marvel,
Oh, that'd be cool too.
like having like these. I feel like it's like you go and you see these Stranger Things pop-up shops. This would be that opportunity. Like even like after it does a run, they should do like off Broadway, like go to different theaters and do Rogers the Musical for a limited time in cities. I think it would hit.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I agree.
Next up on here, we've got
so Mandalorian season 3 premieres on Disney Plus at the beginning of the month, which is next week, so March 1st. And what do we expect is the question. What are you anticipating with this?
I really have no further expectations than I saw the teaser like clip where Grogu is just force pushing the chair in circles. Like that was everything for me. You have Mando talking and like going back and forth, and Grogu is just spinning himself in the chair. That was everything I needed. And so I thought the clips were great. I love seeing Mando be more, or Din Djarin being more of a kind of like a fatherly figure with this for this character. I think Grogu. I would love to hear Grogu talk at some point, but honestly, it's whatever at this point. They've done everything well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they've really separated the characters, right? So like Mando, how he's different from Boba Fett, which is the original, Mandalorian that Star Wars introduced. And so he's different than Yoda. And then now we have the Mandalorians, and there's going to be the internal struggle for the Darksaber. And so it'll be a really interesting season. And I'm looking forward to it like always. I think it really, Mandalorian never seems to fail. I think Boba Fett was a little slow, and obviously when Mando came on, everyone kind of started to pick up. And so I just think people are in love with these characters, and as long as they continue the writing and continue to make it quality writing and good storytelling, it'll go on for as long as they can.
Oh yeah, and I think the idea of going to Mandalore is going to be exciting too. Like just having that whole thing. Like you have I forget her name now. Who's the Mandalorian that we saw that was in Clone Wars?
Ahsoka Tano?
No,
no, the Mandalorian. I was looking at the comment
from Bo-Katan.
Yeah. So I think Ahsoka, that's another thing too, another show that we're waiting for too. So there'll be a tie-in there as well. So I mean, it's going to be a lot, and I think Star Wars shows are really dominating over, and there are no films right now, but over so they're really leaning into that, which is really nice.
It was funny. I was reading something on Twitter. Someone put on a thing that they said that they hope that by the end of the Mandalorian series, whenever they decide to end it, that they properly kill off Din Djarin in an emotional thing. It basically said, "I live for my favorite characters dying in glorious battle," and I'm like, really? Like that's what you're worried about? I just want a movie. It's like I just want to have good story. Like I'll be honest with you, Tales of the Jedi did something for me. That was great.
That was great.
Like learning what happened to Yaddle and like all of this other stuff. Like they did that perfectly. And I'm very impressed. A lot of people do have complaints about things. As much as you may have not liked how the Book of Boba Fett kind of was structured, it did something for fans that I think that they will later on appreciate. Everyone wanted to know what happened to Boba Fett after the Sarlacc pit. Yeah. Like, did he survive? What was it like? I mean, we got an idea of what it's like being inside the Sarlacc pit. Like, come on. Like that was something like that. I didn't know I needed that, and I got it. So
also, I mean, and also look, true to our essence and what we believe in. I think no one should feel bad if they liked it or if they liked it more than Mandalorian, or like again, it's all meant to be taken and digested in whatever way you want and whatever you like and choose. Like obviously, it was slow for some fans. It was a little slow for me. I still watched it. I still enjoyed it. Mandalorian has always been it's a little more my style, but that's the beauty of all these different shows and various shows is that, some people like this more than others. And to your point, very well described and explained, I think diehard fans that watched the original trilogy and wanted to know about Boba Fett and wanted to know that they got a really great insight into it, and the acting was fantastic. And so I totally agree for many reasons.
Yep. So besides that, we've also got some news regarding CinemaCon. CinemaCon is going to be happening this summer. And an announcement was made by Warner Brothers Discovery that they will be screening the entire film of The Flash at CinemaCon, which means we're going to get lots of spoilers. So regardless of where you stand about this film, you're pretty much going to know what happens, because CinemaCon is a place where confidentiality comes to die. And honestly, like, I know that some people are excited about this. It's a shame that anything in pop culture has like divisions and stuff like that. But honestly, at this point, this is kind of like what you were saying before about like the Book of Boba Fett, whether you liked it or not. Wherever you stand on this whole Flash thing, I know we've talked about this multiple episodes now.
Yeah,
regardless of where you stand on it, just stand where you stand.
Yeah,
and let's not attack each other for where we stand.
Enjoy it.
If you stand on this, like my idea, if you're not going to go and support it financially by going to the box office, more power to you. I understand where you're coming from. That's where I stand. If you're going to go and watch it and you're going to say, it's because of this, don't make excuses. Just if you want to go watch it and you're fine with that, just go watch it. We don't need to have a discourse of arguments. It's just the one thing that we do need to do is make sure that Warner Brothers knows we don't accept the behavior.
Yeah.
And they need to do better about it.
We need to speak out more about that kind of stuff. But enjoy it. I mean, I think it's going to be impossible to avoid. I also think, look, one thing I'll say is no art and no content we digest is devoid of some kind of issue. This day and age, there's so much stuff you can go back and nitpick and dissect. So, it's probably going to be a great movie. I think that's why they're really pushing it through. And then, so I'm sure we're going to see and hear a lot about this, and it's going to really dominate a lot of the lexicon for quite a big part of 2023. So, yeah.
And speaking of spoilers, just in case you weren't aware of this, and I don't want to shock you about it, but just to let you know, there is a merch store for Nerd Initiative. We would love to have. I had to throw it in there with great T-shirts, cups, and everything else. If you want to check that out, we would love to have you do that. I feel like after the last show, this is going to have to be a thing that happens a lot. We're just going to be pushing it, and hopefully we'll be pushing new products.
It's so sleek the way it pops up like that.
Oh, too. I know, right?
Restream. You guys
I love it. I love it.
Also, JJ's comic stuff. Great editing on the merch store. Great development on there. It's great.
Oh, absolutely.
All around.
All right. And then we've got next up.
I don't know about this one. Yeah, Dwayne Johnson talking about being interested in joining the MCU, specifically in the role of Luke Cage. I'm gonna say no to that one. This is cool. It's too much at this point, and I think I don't think Marvel will bite either. So Marvel has behind the scenes, in front of the camera, on all levels. Marvel has a great history of building up new and veteran actors. I mean, like RDJ, but it's just too much, and I think. Unless it's like a Deadpool kind of situation where, Josh Brolin is Cable and it's like a joke and it's funny and blah, blah. I can't see this happening, and I can't see this. I can't see this happening.
I would say this, apart from like emotions and everything else, because I know I've done a couple of videos on TikTok, like joking about this. In order for this to actually be a possibility, when Dwayne Johnson signs a contract, he has to be willing to allow them to defeat him and kill him and beat him. And he is purposely had it where he cannot be beaten in a lot of his contracts. And so just so like weird. In like the Fast and Furious, it was always a stalemate.
Weird.
So like, and like with Shazam, or not Shazam, I'm sorry, Black Adam, like he couldn't be defeated, which would have made a showdown with Superman ridiculous, because you're going to say Black Adam can beat Superman. Like, okay. Yeah. So I don't think that contractually would work. I also thought it was very interesting the video that I saw where he's talking is like, I know my PR guy is trying to be with your PR people, and it's just you're a busy person, you're working. I just don't think they're willing to answer that call. Like I see it as Dwayne Johnson's actively reaching out to them, but they're not really interested in reaching out back to him, and
Yeah.
it's just not a good fit.
I also think, I think Jake Gyllenhaal said this a while back. Don't ask me how I know this. In his Inside the Actor Studio interview, and he's like, "Look, what's your number one advice to young actors coming up?" And this is not a dig at Dwayne Johnson, but he's like, listen to the experts in their roles. So if there's a director, work with the director and follow his lead. And if there's other actors and, could be scriptwriter, what he's like, because if you try to think that you know more than the other pieces and the experts, you will never really realize how great you can be. And I think he also dropped an F-bomb or something in there when he was saying it, like about how effing good you can be or effing good you are. Like, he's like, don't ever say cut. Don't ever walk away from unless let the director guide you. And I think the same thing goes for this. I think with Dwayne Johnson, like, it's really interesting that he has all these caveats, and it's surprising because, man, who doesn't love Dwayne Johnson? I think he's losing a lot of love for some of the recent stuff that's coming up. But I also just think, like, why would you not, like, how great can the story be if you don't lose? Like, if we think about some of the amazing movies we've seen in past history, Dark Knight, like, Batman doesn't just like coax through that entire movie. Like, the Joker is a worthy adversary who, outsmarts and outbests him on numerous occasions. The Godfather. I mean, there's so many movies. Like, if you are putting yourself in that where, like, oh, I'm going to be infallible and all that stuff like that, like, you are just limiting yourself, and it's foolish, and it's silly.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Like, I think that especially when it comes to coming from the wrestling aspect to movies and stuff, there is that idea where you always play it strong and you always play it egotistically, when you're doing it. And it's a difference when you go from the acting in the professional wrestling, sorry guys, to acting in like these higher budget films. But it also is important to kind of keep humble and realize that, you may have been attached to big budget films, but it doesn't mean that you're always going to be marketable all the time. And so I think it's kind of like it's an opportunity to reset. I don't think it's smart for him to go from one superhero franchise to another superhero franchise so quickly. Like, even if he does end up ever coming to the MCU at some point, and it's kind of cool. ODPH saying Ken said, Hyperion would be a good a good role for him, but that's only under the understanding that he would be willing to allow himself to be beaten at some point.
Well, it's not even, it's larger than that. You have to be willing to be allowed to be part of the MCU storyline as it pertains to the MCU storyline that is being created by experts and people that are writers and creators, and the vision that they have, and you can contribute, but you can't be pushing your own agenda. And we deal with this.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was a struggle for Ed Norton when he did The Incredible Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
He was constantly butting heads with directors, wanting to rewrite lines and wanting to, have things go through him. And he wasn't a bad Bruce Banner, but he was a bad, actor in the film, and it made it difficult for them. So I understand why Marvel wanted to recast, because Mark Ruffalo is as much as he spoils everything, he's much more palatable when it comes to working
Mark
with him
Ruffalo is
on set.
Look, one of my highlights of things I've done in the past is I interviewed, when in Foxcatcher, Mark Ruffalo played, it's a real life iconic wrestler who, spoiler, who dies in real life. I became friended with the real life character that Mark Ruffalo plays, his actual son, who was a consultant on that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I going with this? No, he talked about working with Mark Ruffalo and building a close relationship with Mark Ruffalo. And he's like, that guy is just everything you see on screen. He is behind the scenes, and he is just a good quality human being who, just cares about the movies he does and cares about the people that he works with. And so, and again, I think of the Avengers cast, I can't picture Ed Norton in that cast. Like, he would be you can't have two RDJs. And I know they're not the same personality, but like back in that day, they would have hated each other.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The leader of the leader in behind the camera was RDJ fully. Like, you know, like he set the tone of that, and he would have absolutely had, you know, if it went through to Avengers, I feel like Ruffalo probably or not Ruffalo, Norton probably would have gotten fired mid filming.
Yeah, I think RDJ's impromptu acting and
that would have
sneaky,
killed
it would have drove him nuts.
Well, it drove Gwyneth Paltrow crazy in Iron Man. It drove her nuts. Like, and you know,
well, that's okay because she doesn't even remember what Marvel movie she's been in.
That's true, yeah.
So, but yeah. Moving on because we're speaking about more Marvel news. Steven Yeun, I believe that's his. I don't want to butcher his name too much. Beloved actor and unfortunate Negan victim in The Walking Dead. Was also part of.
Now this I'm in for.
Yeah, was also one of my favorite movies post his Walking Dead stuff. Was Mayhem with Samara Weaving. In which they're trapped in a building, destroying each other. Like everybody's like just going at destroying each other. Best way I can say it. And then of course we saw him just recently in Nope. Is joining the Thunderbolts cast with an undisclosed role. We don't know what character he's playing yet. What are your thoughts?
I love him. I had to look it up because I wanted to make sure. So in 2020, one of the movies that I watched as like almost like an Oscars prep was Minari. And it was one of my favorites. It is a very slow, very artistic film. It's not the usual Marvel. But I just think Steven Yeun is so good, so talented. He's one of those guys right now, like cast him in everything. Like just put him in everything. He's really good. He's beloved. He's another guy I think has a great reputation. So I'm on board 110% with this because he's just shown himself to like, because you come out of a film like, or a show like The Walking Dead, and it's really easy to kind of get, I wouldn't say typecast, but I wonder what's going to happen to, who's the lead actor? His name in real life is it Andrew? Yeah, Andrew, right? Andrew. I got to look him up, but I wonder how he's gonna do. Obviously John Bernthal didn't have a problem, but he was only in one season, and he's really had a great run. Yeah. So you just worry about that kind of stuff. I think Steven Yeun is.
Oh, Andrew Lincoln,
yeah, from Love Actually, by the way. So I think for Yeun and Ken put it perfect. He'll be a great addition to the MCU. I think for Steven Yeun, I just think he's done some amazing stuff, and like he's proved himself to be. So Okja was another one that was a great movie in 2017. He's really great. He's a great actor, and so
we have gotten some amazing Marvel actors out of the Walking Dead cast. If you think about Michael Rooker, Denai Guara, I mean, like, mind you, like some of the most emotional characters in some cases, even though like just so kind of forever how Denai Guara played it as she's being stripped of her. Her title is general. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like I didn't in like the play between her and M'Baku. Like it was just Winston Duke was just amazing. And so I know I got tired of watching The Walking Dead after a while. I kind of got to the Negan arc. I think it was more so because of the way I felt like things were just being changed from the comics a little bit too much to my liking. And so I just decided to kind of go off in the sunset. Like Andrew Lincoln did.
Too much.
Yeah. And so, Steven has always been one of my favorite actors on the cast, and it's exciting to see him, in this role. And I wonder if we're going to get like a moment where we have a Okoye with whatever character he's playing and just kind of see like a reuniting of the two from the Walking Dead. I mean, that's what I like. But yeah, absolutely. Which this makes me more excited for the Thunderbolts coming down the road.
Yeah.
Also in news, Namor, Tenoch Huerta is confirmed to be coming back for Kang Dynasty. Which I don't know why this had to be reported as news. I would just assume that everybody's coming back for King Dynasty, with the exception of one thing I did not get in here. It has been confirmed that Robert Downey Jr. is done. They are not coming back with Robert Downey Jr. at all.
So you buried the lead on that one, first of all. So wait, who confirmed? Like, where did that come from? That's huge.
Okay, so it was reported. In fact, give me just a moment while you're freaking out about it. I will pull up the person.
I also don't believe anything with the MCU, so you never know. Derek, Paperweight Entertainment's like, thank God. But I mean, so look, talking about this news first. So to your point with Tanakh, I think he also, speaking of, great people, I loved how he handled his, sudden superstardom with his engagement with the fans and everything. He's been just a breath of fresh air. The backstory for Namor is great as well. And I thought he was a incredibly bright spot in Wakanda Forever, a movie I really, really enjoyed. And so I'm happy about this. I will say, like, to your point, why it has to be reported, it could be like, it could be like an Infinity War Endgame situation where I don't think everyone was in Infinity War, right? I think we had, or was it? I'm trying to think.
We didn't have Clint Barton. We didn't have Ant-Man in Infinity War. And so we know that the way they explained that, I know mainly was because Jeremy Renner had engagements that he was dealing with. He was doing the game tag, which is why he was obligated.
That movie
to do
is
tag.
So funny too.
Yes, it's funny, but it's like he was contractually obligated to do tag, so he couldn't be in Infinity War. So they put him on house arrest. So I love that, but yeah, that
could be the situation. Then that would really make it would make sense storyline wise, right? If like the Kang Dynasty happens and they're like literally on the last legs, and we have another Infinity War where we lost. What happened? We lost, as Steve famously said. Like they have to, maybe Shuri survives, whatever craziness we're gonna get, and she's like, I know someone we can call on for reinforcements, or maybe I'm sorry, I just reversed it. I just reversed it from like Kang Dynasty, the Secret Wars. Whatever. So again, there could be a situation like that, much like that. I actually got chills now. I thought that would be cool if he came back in Secret Wars instead of Kang Dynasty. I think that would be cool, where like Shuri's like, I know someone we can call on, and the movie opens up with something like that. But
and instead of an intergalactic pager, it's a conch shell at the end of the
something cool. Yeah, that would be really cool.
And then of course we're gonna get a whole Namor movie that has nothing to really do with anything except for just to show his power set. No, but I really think like we're gonna get at some point, like if you consider like, okay, there's the council. I'm just gonna say the spoilers a little bit. If there is a council of Kangs, and we're dealing with the multiversal war, and we're dealing with Kang Dynasty, what is the best way to have a response team to deal with the Council of Kangs than to have a Council of Heroes, as in the Illuminati for the MCU? We've already seen them tease the Multiverse of Madness. We've got Shuri. Shuri could take the place of T'Challa. We've got Doctor Strange. We've got Namor now. It would be very easy to bring in some individuals to kind of build that Illuminati to kind of be like a multiversal response team. But regardless, the Robert Downey Jr. news was reported. According to Steven Broussard, the vice president of production and development on Marvel Studios, said that options for Tony Stark, actor 57, to come back aren't on the table. Iron Man died in Avengers Endgame. Full stop.
I mean, I don't know what to believe. I'm sorry. I'm too skeptical. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he came back. But
I really believe,
again, he's not, when I say come back, I mean come back is like, quick blip, quick. Nah, sorry, I used the wrong word. Blip. quick drop in. There's some reason he won't play a critical role. Like, I mean, that's all. I think that's always on the table because, I could even see Chris Evans coming back at some point for like a quick, much like we saw in Free Guy, where he came back and was like as Chris Evans, basically
angry when he pulls out the shield. Yeah,
like something like that. I think that's always open for the table. It's not going to be another. You don't want to walk back that incredible ending, and that if there's a little thing here or there, that won't walk that back. So that's the main thing I see. But yeah, I could be wrong.
Yeah. And I honestly believe when we get to the end of Secret Wars, we're gonna have a timeline that is gonna have mixtures of like soft rebooted characters and some of our old characters. I really think that's going to be a way. If they bring back Iron Man, they're going to bring back Iron Man from a different multiverse. So that's just my thoughts. Speaking of the multiverse, nice little segue going into that, Michael.
Yes. So Jeff Schneider shared a part of the reason that Across the Spider-Verse was delayed, and it was to get our good friend Tom Holland into the film, and that's great. I think that's epic. I hope it doesn't really overshadow this film. It'll be a nice plug. I'm excited to see Oscar Isaac as, Spider-Man 2099. And then there's going to be a myriad of other, Spider-Man that we see. I will boycott and be upset and absolutely go ham if we do not have Peter Porker back. And hopefully John Mulaney is back as well. So that's my breaking point, but excited for this.
My biggest fear is like Sony did with Morbius. This is a big old fib that's going to get people excited. I personally don't feel like they have to do this. They don't have to deceive us to get butts in the seats, because I think everyone's excited about Across the Spider-Verse. Into the Spider-Verse was amazing. And so my only other thought is so there's a lot of discussion about, Miles kind of goes through a portal. He's in the real world, like MCU. He sees a live action Tom Holland, but he's still, digitized. He's still cartoonish. And my thought would be, what if this is a catalyst to get Peter Parker, our Peter Parker MCU, like who's that? To actually look for the Miles Morales of his universe to see if he has powers. Like I could see that. And then of course, who does he run into? But Uncle Aaron, who we've already seen in Homecoming. Like I would love that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a nice possibility. It doesn't change my excitement for the film, maybe a little bit. But yeah, I'm almost kind of surprised why they had to pull this out of there. Like why they had to say this, other than to justify the delays. But we live in a world full of delays now at this point.
Yeah. What was there was recent news about Miles, right? That he was like was it a show that we're like, he's in development, or Spider-Man 4, we'll see Miles is what they said, right? Like that's,
well, also they're what is it?
News, right?
Amazon is also doing, I think, some spin-offs to the Across the Spider-Verse, I think. Aren't we getting like a Spider-Man Noir like show or something? Yeah, so I mean, it's like they are going to try to spin things off, and it does make sense. I mean, we just recently had Kevin Feige say that there are big plans for Spider-Man, and I do get Sony wants to still want to cash out and say, yeah, well, we still have plans for him too. But regardless, I think we're going to see Sony and Marvel Studios working together for a while.
Yeah, and I do. Sorry, I was so close to timing it right, and I do think, to your point, I think this is the way to get Miles into the MCU. Like, I think if he's going to be in Spider-Man 4, what's the bridge to that is to bring Tom Holland. That would be really cool to have Tom Holland in live action. Even animated or either way, I think it'll be really cool. And I think that's going to be the bridge to get Miles into the next one, and then off to the races with that storyline. So he is the future of Spider-Man, but there's going to be I think there's going to be multiple, and it'll be fun, and yeah, be great.
Now, this next news, I have lots of feelings about. So I'm just going to go ahead and let's just pull the Band-Aid off. Warner Brothers Discovery has made a new deal with New Line Cinema that they will be making new movies, new adaptations of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And all I have to say is, why? Why?
Yeah.
Why? And I heard one person say that they're going to bring it gritty. Like if they bring if they turn the Lord of the Rings trilogy into like the DCEU style where it's like dark and gritty, I will cancel my HBO Max so fast.
Explain this to me. Is it going to be like a reboot? Are we getting the same storylines? Like what is it? New stories? Like what? How is this work? I don't follow. of this stuff. Like I've seen the Lord of the Rings clearly, and everyone, and I liked the new shows. What was the show that we saw that was
Rings of Power. Yep.
That was great. I love finding out the origins of these things, like how these things came to be. I'm excited for the upcoming seasons and also seeing different perspectives of, it's kind of like Star Wars started that, like different perspectives of the main villains, and you find out like why but like, what is this going to be?
I personally feel like, listen, whether if you don't like Lord of the Rings, no skin off your back. I'm glad, I'm glad you cannot like it. There are things that I don't like, that I don't really care about, that people have been upset about. It's okay. I get it. But for a Lord of the Rings fan, for a film series to be so universally loved, it's not perfect, but the care and the love that went into this film to then remake it would be like remaking the original Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah. We'll throw out Paperweight's comment. Put it
and
up
it
there.
is. It is. If you
There's
look at the report,
answer.
Yes.
Money is the answer.
Yeah,
money
right
is
here.
the answer.
Hold on, wrong one. There we go.
Boom.
Yes, money is the answer. So they made billions of dollars off of the Lord of the Rings trilogy and billions of dollars off of The Hobbit, which made sense. They were semi-successful with, I think, Rings of Power. Mind you, Warner Brothers didn't have anything in that because Amazon got that with New Line Cinema. And so the specific like wording was that they signed a deal with New Line Cinema to produce multiple adaptations of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So
we'll see what happens. Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
I don't like literally. I this is gonna sound weird. As soon as I saw this report, I went to my my movie collection. I pulled out my Lord of the Rings extended edition collector set and my Hobbit, and I'm like sitting there going, yeah, as much as I didn't like The Hobbit, I don't want it retold. Like I don't want it retold. Like
well, I think it's time to move on to something different. Like I said, that's why I really liked Rings of Power. It was refreshing and different.
Yes.
So
yes, absolutely.
Time to do something different.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, my Gandalf will always be, from that series. Like
I want to read the next one. It's ridiculous.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Here we go. Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom has reportedly had test screenings, and those in attendance have stated that is, quote unquote, the worst DC EU movie ever. So my question to that, I want to get your take on this, but wait, are you putting this below Suicide Squad? Not the Suicide Squad, the first one, David Ayer, because that was the worst movie I think I've ever seen, period.
Now here's the thing. I can find enjoyment in any bad film, with the most part. Can't stand Aragon, terrible adaptation, terrible movie. Like if you want to talk about like it's Morbius levels disappointment for me. I'm going to be very honest with you.
It's pretty bad, yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. And then Morbius, Sony lied to us. So there's like that. The fact that this has gotten such bad reviews and they've reviewed it, I kind of want to watch it more now. Like I had no interest in watching this film, if you hadn't heard. But honestly, this kind of makes it more interesting for me, and I don't know why. It's like, let's go out with a bang or a fizzle. I don't know, but I don't know. Cracked me up. It cracked me up so much when I saw
I will
this.
say the one thing I will say is that I remember when before Dawn of Justice came out, and I remember reading a report saying that same exact thing as this, but people had stood up in a standing ovation as the movie ended. I don't know if it was Hollywood Reporter. It was probably something like that, where like screenings had been shown and people roared in applause at the ending of that movie. And we all know how that turned out. So you take these things with a grain of salt, but yeah, it's probably going to be terrible. I mean, just be honest. Like I love Jason Momoa, but this is time to, this whole thing is dissolved. Let's just end this, past universe and let James Gunn go with things. And yeah.
And I think what I've heard, like even Shazam: Fear of the Gods is tracking to be one of the lowest opening weekends for a DCU film. Like it's just not like I'll be honest with you, it's out now because is it out because
No, I
like
don't think so. Is it out?
because
No.
I saw a thing reporting that it's and I'm like, wait, like this that's how separated I
Well, I mean,
am
look,
for it.
I
Like
yeah,
I'm not even in the
I'm
spatial
looking this up right
awareness of
now.
when it's. I think it's like May 10th, isn't it, or May 17th
I
or
will
something?
say I don't think it's out yet. I will say this, like, so a good friend of mine, so Walt Hickey, it's March 17th.
Yeah,
Walt Hickey used to work at he works in Insider and he used to work at 538. He and he's actually a Pulitzer Prize winner now, but great. Walt Hickey's great. He did an amazing piece one time that was like tracking the campaign of an Oscar campaign. The basically, I think his title was tracking the death of Oscar campaigns. And so you can watch as studios start to give up on projects. Like they'll have, half page ads. And this is like data driven, like looking at, actual things. It's not like there's nothing subjective there's nothing subjective behind this. It's objective. And so you can see the ads as these movies get bad reviews and the studios give up, the ads get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then eventually they just don't even like promote it. I feel like the same thing goes with these films. I think James Gunn and company are looking towards the future, and I think even Shazam: Fear of the Gods, which could be a decent movie because the first one was good. I think everyone's just ready. Everyone that's involved in these projects is ready to move on to the next phase, and so
yeah.
there's not there's no marketing, there's no buzz around it. There's no. This is probably a horrible movie. Shazam could be like 75 or 80 on Rotten Tomatoes from fans, and people will like it and have a good time. But I just don't think people are really engaged. And I think the studio's not putting the effort behind it anymore. They will put the effort behind it, and we will get it with a bang when the new Superman film comes out, or the Batman film, or even the other projects as they start to build up. There will be a concerted effort to make sure that we are aware of everything that's coming. So we
Yeah.
will see that. And I think for now, they're just letting this, like, if a tree falls in the middle of the forest and no one's there to see, does it really fall? And so they're kind of like, let's get this over with.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, I was trying to think back, like apart from the Zachary Levi controversy and stuff recently, and other things.
There's this what? I'm missing all
Um,
these controversies. What is this one now?
so Zachary Levi Pugh went by Zachary Levi because he thought he would get better. He would get better positions. He's not Jewish, but he complained that because of his last name sounding Jewish, he gets less jobs, and so he complained about like discrimination against that. And then recently, he went out and like made some comments against Pfizer, and instead of saying it was like his complaints were like big pharma, like everyone took it as him talking about vaccines, and he did not much to clarify it. And so it's again,
he's going the way of an Aaron Rodgers. Oh
yeah,
man.
I mean,
Zach.
so it's like, yeah, there's been a little bit of like of controversy with that. Like I didn't even want to touch on it like a couple episodes ago. But it's been like a month, I think, at least, since that was a big deal.
Yeah.
But I think what happened for Shazam that was so good was there was like the superpowers and he was able to do all the abilities, but I felt like that the kids' relationships were so crucial in that first one. Like, I loved how they built up Billy Batson's background.
Yeah.
It was more than the shock and awe of the 7 Deadly Sins and the fight at the end and everything else. It was very much people focused. And what I also loved was when the adult actors took over the personas of the kids, they still played as if they were the kids well.
Yeah.
And that was perfect. Like the purity was there. What I've seen from Fury of the Gods is it seems like they're growing them up, they're maturing them too fast, and there's this level of it's gonna lean more into the action and the shock and awe of it than the family background that there was in that first film.
Okay. That's
So
fair.
again, I don't know much. It is whatever. I'll see it at some point when it's on streaming or whatever. I do have a DC, shelf that I like to collect things. Even the first Suicide Squad, which I like that film, especially I like the director's version. The theatrical version was terrible.
We can talk about that another time.
Yeah.
Next topic.
But yeah, let's move on before I dig myself a hole. And then this is something that I am super excited about. I don't know why I'm super excited about it, but Eve Ewing is the writer for the new run of Black Panther, and there's going to be a new run coming out. I believe it said it was in June, or it's at least in sale in June. Black Panther #1. Basically, T'Challa is a king without a kingdom. He ends up going to his father's, his city, and he still is the defender of Wakanda, even if Wakanda doesn't want him. And this is a new design for the Black Panther costume, and I'm not against it. I like it. I like the look of it. It looked very exciting. This was shown on the Today Show, I believe it was. And I had to include it because it looks very nice.
It reminds me of the King, T'Chaka, from the movie Black Panther, like very regal and has that kind of aesthetic.
But there's also this tactical kind of like I don't know, like Crusader type look to it, which I thought was kind of cool. Because it's going to be interesting to see how, he's basically, I don't know the full story. I haven't read the current run of Black Panther. But just the kind of this idea that, he's unwanted by his people, but he's still going to defend them. And there's going to be that they're touting like new villains and new adventures for him. But I just love this. I thought this was beautiful.
Yeah.
And it really is in stark contrast to what we're going to talk about next. And I'll let you talk about it because I don't want to.
It is a bad. I mean, look, this has a storied past, but look, Amazing Spider-Man 20 officially ended. It's ended before the long romance of Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson. Essentially, they are more like a sister or a best friend than lovers. And so he is free to, pursue other romantic interests. We were talking about this earlier. Our good friend 60 Second Comics Facts is hating this run. I don't disagree. I think it's the sister best friend. It's aggressive, but I also will say, like, I feel like this happens all the time. I think back in the day when they got married the first time, didn't Stanley always regret that? And he walked it back, and then they were unmarried. And then there's been so many ebbs and flows with this whole thing. This is a little weird because it's his iconic love interest. So it's a little strange that the way they're going about it. It's not the thing. I mean, if he was pining for her and they'd broken up and stuff like that, I think that's more natural to the history of Peter Parker. But I want to get your take on this weird turn of events. My best friend and my sister, Mary Jane.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I got Amazing Spider-Man 1, and then because I was excited about them doing a new run of it and everything else, and I'm like, I'm gonna get #1. And I will be honest with you, after I read that first comic book, I lost interest whatsoever. I mean, this storyline this storyline in episode in issue 20 is a 2-part done by 2 different writers, but this is indicative of this storyline because we start off with this new series. Mary Jane Watson is together with a partner, a guy named Paul. She's got she's attached to 2 kids now that are calling her mommy. And supposedly, I think in the next couple issues, they're gonna explain like what happened between Peter Parker and Mary Jane. But I'll be honest with you, like there was something like I understood the One More Day storyline, like undoing that. That was like the worst. That was the worst decision. Like honestly, Mary Jane, the writing for Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker being in love, and even when they were married, was like the stuff of like Lois and Clark. Like it was just like, you know, she understood. I mean, she was like she was his anchor in a lot of points, which was what raised the stakes when she was involved. It didn't make sense for me that he would sacrifice, you know, that relationship for May. I get that he was upset, but then to sit down and to consider, and again, you go back one day more or one more day, you know, she's kind of the driving force. She pushes him to make that decision. And then they find out, of course, about May Parker, you know, their future child that was not to be. And then they did the Secret Wars, Renew Your Vows, and I thought they need to bring them back as a couple. They need to do this. They need to undo the one day more, like, or the one more day, and just let them be together. I think it would be great. And then having May Parker as a young you know, a young Spiderling or whatever you want to call her, you know, and Peter having to train, that would have been a great progression for the character. But now all of this is just, I don't know. I will say, if you do go back and listen to watch 60-second comebacks rendition of this, viewer discretion is advised. He uses language that you normally don't hear from him, because he gets it out. He's frustrated, and you know when Ringo's upset that you've really pushed him too far, because he tries to be positive about everything. And
I mean, Derek made a good call. I mean, like if you don't just take a personal take on it, it seems like the masses do not like this. Yeah. So it's not just one person, and it's not for like silly reasons, right? Like, you know what's funny, and then this is, again, we're gonna keep it up under an hour, it seems like, which is great. I'm proud of us. And this won't be a tangent though. I was going back and reading, you know, the Ultimate Fallout series and some of the early Miles Morales, you know, Ultimate Spider-Man runs, and if you go to the kind of like the letters to the editor after Ultimate Fallout 4, and so it's like, you know, Miles's origin in issue 1, people are saying like, why did you replace? I mean, they're clearly upset for the wrong reasons, and I won't even explain some of the notes that Marvel published where it's like, why would you replace Peter Parker with a black Spider-Man or something? It's just stupid and silly, and now he's a beloved character, rightfully so, and he's got his own angle and own storyline. It's beautiful, it's great. This one, fans are just upset because it just seems to be not great storytelling, and so again, that's where I say the right reasons and the wrong reasons, because fans, you know, classically comic book fans will get upset about some silly things and, you know, get off my lawn and don't touch my characters. But this one seems to be because it's just a really wonky, weird. Also, he looks like Fabio there with the flowing hair, and
he doesn't even look like Peter Parker. Like, I don't.
And so I think the art's good. I think it's all comes from the storytelling, and I think, yeah.
And he goes even deeper, because like Ringo was talking about how, you know, there was a whole arc with Ben Reilly coming back, and he was like the official Spider-Man for a while, and then like they're like, what do we do with him? We can't have another Spider-Man because we've already got 2, and they end up, you know, taking him out, and it's like it's almost like they have these pieces, and it's kind of what I said about Bryan Singer, and I have no hate toward the writers for these comic books, but Bryan Singer, the one thing I hated about him taking over X-Men and doing X-Men was, after the first couple, it was kind of like he had a toy box and he just threw them out on the floor and did whatever he wanted with them. He didn't care where they came from. He just kind of put them together and did what he wanted.
There's no continuity.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what we're seeing with this. It's like, okay, you want to run where Peter has a flame with Black Cat, I guess do that, but like, you don't have to like completely dissolve like decades of a relationship that you have built up that has been like this thing that people have, you know, kind of built around. I mean, the Mary Jane Watson relationship, it's been longer than Gwen Stacy's, and so I just don't know. I don't know how I feel, especially when you know, it's so universally like disliked. But
well, Mary Jane's been around since, I mean, she's been around since, I think it's issue 25 is her cameo. So I'm saying Amazing Spider-Man issue 25. Like, this is back in, you know, this is the first couple of years of Spider-Man. Yeah, she's an iconic, character, and I don't know. Yeah, it's a very, we could talk about this for a long time.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah.
interesting, very weird. It could be, again, it could be just shock and awe, like people want to, whatever. And
They better one more day this thing.
they'll end this run, and then they'll start a new run, and they'll bring in Donnie Cates, and it'll be like Mary Jane's a Spider-Man serial killer or something. It'll be something totally different.
Or you're gonna find out. You're gonna find out that this Peter Parker isn't the real Peter Parker at all. It's gonna be
Ben
another,
Riley or something. Yeah.
yeah, or it's like Ben Riley's like clone of a clone type thing. But anyway, so one of the things we added to this, I'm gonna let Michael. I'm gonna let you do the rundown. Is you added some things that you would recommend for what's streaming. So go ahead and do your breakdown. We're gonna go to the first one.
So let's give the origin behind this whole thing real quick. I think, look, streaming, there's so many things out there. Apple TV, Prime, Hulu. We want to give you kind of a few things each episode, just to kind of recommend, if you aren't watching, to check it out, because it can be overwhelming for sure. So kick it off to the first one. Look, the Harrison Ford Renaissance continues. And that's why I wanted to put this in immediately. I'm trying to rack my brain to think of other Harrison Ford projects like this. I can't. So it's a comedy, but it's also very heartfelt with Jason Segel. If you don't know the backstory, basically there's a lot of tragic things that happen here. I don't think there's no spoilers in this kind of stuff. We're so trained poorly with the whole Marvel stuff. Jason Segel he lost his wife in a tragic event, but he's also a therapist, and he's just like changing up, it affects his life, and he goes on these like, hijinks, and it's funny. But his relationship with Harrison Ford is really interesting in this show. And Harrison Ford, his character in the show, is dealing with his own, issues, major health issues, and their dynamic is great. There's other characters in there that are great, and actors, and it's something definitely to check out. It's also an easy watch. It is, and so I highly recommend that, along with a lot of other Apple TV Plus shows that are out there. So, yeah, love to get your take. What? Well, all right, I'll wait till this one to get your take on this one. So, good news involving Jeremy Renner, for sure. Season 2 of Mayor of Kingstown has been incredible. Season 1 was incredible. It's just good to see him healthy. Well, he's not healthy, but on screen healthy and doing what he does. And so if you are a fan of Renner, and obviously wish him the best, his continued efforts to, heal and hopefully get back to full strength, you need to check this out if you haven't. I will say an anecdote is a friend of mine didn't know about the show, told him about the show, came back to me the next day, watched the entire thing in like one night, and was like, this is amazing. It is by Taylor Sheridan of Yellowstone fame, and basically Taylor Sheridan is getting everything greenlit at this moment. There's a lot of years in there. What is it? It's like 1880. I've seen them all. 1923, 18 something. And so Taylor Sheridan is basically the hottest, show creator out right now. But this is all about Jeremy, and this show it's so good. And so I want to get your take. Have you seen it? Do you plan to see it?
I haven't seen anything of this. I've heard of it. I saw the promos and stuff. He was in his hospital bed, commenting and like posting things about the show, which has made me want to watch it. But hearing your take on it, I definitely want to check it out. So I will do that, and hopefully I'll at least have a couple episodes under my belt. I will say though,
for what you said earlier, warning to you, I think you did the warning for Ringo. It is a gritty, probably rated R film, or not film, show. So just know that going in, depending on, I think Shrinking, we talked about earlier, is watch it with the kids. It's enjoyable. It's funny. It's, whatever. Mayor of Kingstown is, yeah, you know what to do. It is for the adults only, but it's really good. The storyline is compelling, as and Jeremy Renner is just a great actor too. It's another thing we talked about with earlier with Steven Yeun. I think Jeremy Renner is just, an Oscar nominated actor. So he's fantastic, and he carries the show easily.
No, that's also the first thing I ever saw Jeremy Renner in was Hurt Locker.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's where he won Oscar for Best Actor, didn't he?
Nominated. I don't think he won.
Oh, okay.
He was not, I think he lost
No,
to
that's
Daniel
right. He
Day-Lewis
was
that year. Was
yeah, he was,
Lincoln the year of Lincoln or no?
Yeah, I think you're right. Daniel Day-Lewis. Yeah.
I think so. Which
Yeah.
no one beats Daniel Day-Lewis. That's fine.
Yeah, I remember, but at least Catherine Bigelow won the Oscar for Hurt Locker, beating out James Cameron's Avatar.
Yep.
Like I really wish last year we would have had another Catherine Bigelow movie, just so that we could have had her win an Oscar over her husband, ex-husband again. That's
right.
Here or there, but I will give it a check out. And then last but not least,
Poker Face. This was surprising to me, actually. I love this show. If you go to Rotten Tomatoes right now, and I know we don't take that stuff seriously, it is, I think, 99%. Great show. Main actress. Let me look up the name. I know it from American Pie fame. I'm like watching this, and of course I have to look up. Her name is Natasha Lyonne. Sorry, apologies. That's all my fault. But I will say, like, so if you are a fan of, it's got like kind of like a retro feel to it, where there is a continuing storyline, but it's like a modern day Murder, She Wrote. Every episode is its own thing, and there's also incredible cameos. I'm looking
at the cast list on this thing,
and they all appear in one. Ellen Barkin was in one of the most recent ones. They all appear in like one episode, and then there's
like Ron Perlman, John Ratzenberger, Nick Nolte, Adrian Brody.
The last one,
crazy.
And so essentially, she can read. She basically is a human lie detector, and so you can't lie to her. And they don't really go into explain what it is, but she's just like, so I've had it since I was born, and whatever. And she's on the run for something that happened that involved her certain skill set. So she literally is traveling across the country, solving all these murders. And so there's basically like a murder each episode. It's like I said, like it's a modern day Murder, She Wrote, and it's really funny and witty and it's always good. The writing is excellent on it. I need to look up who does the writing, because that's something I probably should have done. But it's just always, they have this style that is kind of like Tarantino-esque. They start with the murder first, and then they kind of show you how she's involved, and she's always involved. You don't see her during the murder, the beginning, the first like 5-10 minutes. You don't see her in like the setting. So say she did work at like an old folks home. So you see the murder, and then you find out like how she got there, where she is. Like usually she's working at like random places across the country just to survive. So it's really hard to explain, but it's a really good show, and I highly recommend it. It is just super interesting, and
it's created by Rian Johnson.
So it's really good. It's different. Highly recommend it. I think a lot of people, that's going to be one that I can say out of all these. Like, I think Mayor of Kingstown might be a little polarizing in the sense that it is violent and gory, and it's Jeremy Renner. Like, it's like Hawkeye Unleashed. And Shrinking could also be really funny for some people or boring for others. And it's got a lot of heart to it. Poker Face, I think a lot of people are going to watch it and be like, oh, this is great. I love this. So it's and there's a reason why it's rated so high. So I highly recommend people to check this out.
Well, that's really cool. I think I'm actually more intrigued with Poker Face than the Mayor of Kingstown. So I will definitely be checking that out. So we did it. We did it in less than 2 hours. So do we want to talk about anything else? No, I'm just kidding. No, but for those of you who are on here, thank you. This was very impromptu. We were like discussing this and talking about this, and we were like, let's just go ahead and pull the trigger and do it. Thank you for those who've been watching. We did it. We'll have less to talk about next week, which I doubt we'll have lots to talk about. But with that said, Michael, thank you so much for joining and for being on. Any last parting words? Anything you want to say before you shut up?
I'm going to say we're going to keep doing this. I think this is great. I think this is what we want to do. Splinter this off, and I think I love this, and so hopefully other people did as well, and we don't get a lot of hate mail. But cool.
Absolutely.
Not that I ever get hate mail. And thank you, Derek. I appreciate that as well.
Absolutely. And just remember, please remember, we could not do this without the sponsorship of the Nerd Initiative merch store.
I was like, wait, we have a sponsor? Wait, what? Like, oh, I wasn't aware of this.
If you're thirsty, if you're cold, there is stuff to put on and there's stuff to use to drink. We would love to have you check that out. Don't necessarily say you have to buy anything, but that would be greatly appreciated. And then remember, we will be back next week. We're considering changing the timing for the Fandoms episode, but right now it's still tentatively 9 o'clock. 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I just stop and do the math there real quick. But
3 a.m. Mountain Time.
Absolutely. And if you didn't see the Comic Press podcast that aired last night, it was a great episode. Record number of viewers, and it is available on our YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be notified when these things happen if we decide to create another impromptu show. Also, make sure you check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and our Nerd Initiative TikTok channel. That way you can know what's going on, because a lot is going on. Nerd Initiative is on the move.
MySpace, Friendster. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're also trying to revive Vine right now, I believe. With the way TikTok is going, we might as well try to. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being on. Have a wonderful evening, and we will catch you next time.